They say nothing good happens after 3 a.m. But what if something comes knocking? Would you open the door? This is a true story of someone who did and lived to regret it. It was a cold winter night, the kind where silence clings to the air like a heavy fog. Daniel had just moved into a new apartment, small, quiet, and tucked away from the main road. It was exactly what he wanted. Peace, isolation. But isolation can be dangerous when you're all alone. That night, as Daniel lay in bed scrolling through his phone, his apartment felt different. The silence wasn't calming. It was too quiet, too still. He shook off the unease, convincing himself it was just first-night jitters. Then, at exactly 3:07 a.m., knock, knock. The sound was soft, deliberate. Someone was at his door. Daniel froze. Who could be visiting at this hour? His friends? Unlikely. A neighbor? Maybe. But wouldn't they call first? He sat up, his heartbeat echoing in the stillness. He didn't move, hoping whoever it was would just leave. But then, louder this time, more urgent. His phone screen lit up. No messages, no missed calls. Slowly he crept toward the door, his socks silent against the wooden floor. Every step felt heavier than the last. When he finally reached it, he took a deep breath, steadied his shaking hand, and peered through the tiny glass. There was no one there. His stomach twisted. He stepped back, every hair on his body standing on end. And then, loud, forceful, right in front of him. But the peephole still showed nothing. His breath hitched. No way. This had to be a prank. But deep down, something told him it wasn't. Then the doorknob turned, slowly. A voice followed, low, whispering. "Let me in." Daniel stumbled back. His mind screamed run, but his body locked up in fear. The voice came again, closer this time. "Let me in." And then, complete silence. The knocking stopped. The handle stilled. All that was left was his pounding heart and the quiet hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Daniel didn't sleep that night. When morning finally came, he convinced himself it was all in his head. A prank. A bad dream. But something inside him whispered otherwise. That evening, as he left work and approached his apartment, a strange chill ran down his spine. The hallway felt darker than usual, as if the light bulbs had dimmed just slightly. As he slid his key into the lock, he hesitated. Something wasn't right. The door was unlocked. His heart hammered as he pushed it open inch by inch. The air inside was thick, heavy with something he couldn't quite place. He stepped in cautiously, scanning the room. Nothing seemed out of place until he saw it. The chair by his small kitchen table. It had been pulled out, slightly turned. He hadn't left it like that. Then, on the table, was his phone. A single notification glowed on the screen. 3:07 a.m., unknown number, let me in. That night he didn't turn off the lights. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to rationalize everything. Maybe he had forgotten to lock the door. Maybe the chair had moved on its own. But the message, no explanation. And then, it was back. He didn't move. He barely breathed. Then something worse happened. The knocking wasn't at his door. It was at his bedroom window. Daniel jumped from the bed, yanking open the curtains. Nothing was there. But before he could breathe, his phone vibrated in his hand. Another message. "I see you." Panic surged. He grabbed his keys, his wallet, and bolted for the door. He ran outside, straight into the freezing air, not stopping until he was 3 blocks away at a 24-hour diner. He sat in a booth, hands trembling, trying to figure out what to do next. He dialed his friend Mike, who answered groggily. "Dude, what's wrong?" Daniel hesitated, then told him everything. The knocking, the messages, the feeling that something was watching him. Mike was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Dan, you're not at your apartment, right?" "No," Daniel whispered. "Good. Don't go back." Daniel stayed at a friend's place that night, but his nightmares followed him. He kept dreaming of his apartment, of hearing the knocking in his sleep. But in the dream, when he opened the door, something stepped inside. A shadowy figure, its face just wrong, twisted. A gaping mouth, stretching too wide, whispering, "Let me in." The next morning, Daniel went back with Mike to check his apartment. What they found sent shivers down both their spines. The door was wide open. The chair was toppled over. But the worst part? The words, "Let me in," were scrawled across his wall, written over and over, in what looked like deep scratches. Mike swore under his breath. "We need to leave. Now."
Daniel agreed. They packed up his belongings, moving out before the sun set. But as they left, Daniel swore he saw something in the hallway mirror. A shadow flickering behind him, watching, waiting. Even now, Daniel wakes up at exactly 3:07 a.m., his heart pounding. His phone sometimes buzzes with an unknown notification, and every so often, he swears he hears it again. Have you ever experienced something like this? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more chilling tales. Until next time, keep your doors locked